Some women scream to survive. Others, they get quiet. Boil bush tea, fold laundry, and wait. This one, she waited 18 years until one night under the Ackee Tree, she decided enough was enough. Go. Dead by Thursday, in the ground by Monday. That was fast. Too fast. For a man from Jamaica, Clarendon. Especially one who grew up on Palmer's Crossroads and made his name in the betting shops and domino circles between Hazard and Racetrack. Where he lived, the streets stayed hot with tension, both sun and violence. Gunshots weren't unheard of at night. People stayed behind their grills, minding their own business, living side by side with old feuds and new hustles. Still, life moved with rhythm. Fish fry on Fridays, cake sale on Saturdays, early morning parties from Tasties, loud patois greetings on the way to the bus park. Even the rum bars had regulars who knew everybody's business before the person knew it themselves. But for all the chaos, funerals in Maypen, they had order. A man like Junior should have had proper send-off. A night with domino slams and curry goat bubbling in an old cast iron pot, singing that spilled over into the morning, bottles of JB rum passing hand to hand. Instead, he got a low mass at the worst Anglican church and the worst corner, the one tucked behind the overgrown cemetery on a street that even taxis avoid. No waiting for his brothers in London or his sister in Miami, who said she needed at least 10 days to fly in. Just a closed casket, a dead-faced priest, and a hole in the red dirt, like they couldn't wait to cover him. Clarendon people believe in bush. Every yard had something planted that could cure something. Fever grass for cold, cerasee for cleansing, guinea head weed for pain. But some leaves, some of them didn't grow in plain sight. And the quiet leaf was one of them. You couldn't just ask for it outright. Not in daylight and not by name. You had to know somebody that knows somebody. And Marva did. She never went looking for it. She didn't have to. Her grandmother had pressed the brown paper pouch into her hand on her wedding day, long before the disrespect, long before the bruises that didn't mark her skin but stained her soul. Only use this when the spirit vexed you to the point of no return, she said. And even then, be sure you're ready for carry what come after. Marva had kept it tucked in the far corner of the cupboard, hidden behind the old batteries, expired Panadol, and empty rum miniatures. Some days, she forgot it was even there. Other days, she didn't. She tolerated a lot. Junior wasn't a kind man, but he was charming. He could make a woman feel like the sun rose just to shine on her skin. And that is how he trapped them. That is how he trapped her. Marva had been his wife for 18 years. Together for 30. 4 children and not a single close friend. He had made sure of that. Anytime she got close to a woman, he'd stir up something, whisper lies, spread rumors, and then turn around and flirt with them in front of her. Sometimes he'd go further. Affairs that came fast and loud, leaving Marva to sweep up the ashes and still say good morning like nothing happened. But Junior was real wicked. She worked mornings at the clinic at Manchester Avenue. Evenings, she was home, scrubbing tile and folding uniforms, plucking feathers from fresh chicken because Junior refused to eat meat from the freezer. And he never once said thank you. He'd come home late, belly full, shirt stiff with sweat and another woman's perfume. He brought home much more than that, much more than money. He brought home shame, disease, the kind no antibiotics could cure, and still she boiled his water, cooked his meals, washed the soil from his underwear without asking a single question. He called her paranoid when she used to ask, ungrateful when she cried, selfish if she said she was tired. He'd twist her wrongs until they sounded like her fault. If you was sweeter, we wouldn't have to go look outside. You're too moody and miserable. A woman like you really and truly should feel lucky if I have a man like me. He made her doubt the ground she walked on, and still, she stayed. Over the years, there were whispers, then phone calls that ended too fast, lipstick on his collar, and a woman's scent that smelled way too much like sex. Once, Marva found a single gold earring under the passenger seat of the car, one she didn't own. She never confronted him directly, never yelled, never smashed his things or kicked him out, because Clarendon women weren't raised like that. You endured, you held the home together, you prayed harder, but the praying hadn't worked. What broke her? What broke her wasn't a woman, it was the baby. The pink slip from a baby store in Spanish Town folded neat like it meant something, like it was a keepsake. She found it when she was collecting laundry. Junior had left his pants tossed carelessly on the bathroom floor. She reached into the back pocket and pulled it out without even thinking. One crib, car seat, and $50,000 worth of baby clothes, and a handwritten note on the back in careful, girlish script. Thank you for taking care of us. Love always, Tish. Tish. She could picture her. Pretty, no doubt. Young, definitely. Probably the kind that still wore ankle bracelets and posted Bible quotes underneath bikini photos. One of those girls who called older men daddy without shame. Marva stood in the bathroom for a long time, staring at that receipt. She didn't know what to do. She didn't cry, didn't curse, didn't even blink. Just stared. And then she folded the paper back the same way she found it and slipped it into her apron pocket. That night, she cooked oxtail with butter beans and served it with rice and peas, just the way he liked it. Junior ate 3 helpings, licked his fingers and asked for tea. He liked it sweet. 2 sugars, always. That night, she gave him 3. She used lemongrass from the yard, the kind that grew thick near the back fence, shaded by the Ackee Tree. She washed the quiet leaf slowly, deliberately, like she was handling something alive. The water turned a cloudy, bitter brown, not the usual amber color of bush tea. It smelled like earth and memory. She poured it into his favorite mug, the one that said "World's Best Dad," and brought it to him while he sat in front of the TV, half watching a rerun of Laugh Jamaica. "You're late," he grumbled, scratching his belly without looking up. "Me throat dry long time." Sorry, me know," she said, settling the mug in his hand. He didn't sip it right away, just let the steam rise, eyes half closed. And then he drank. Lad, this tea is sweet bad. How you all try to kill me? Marva smiled, folding her arms. It must be the lemongrass. That was his first cup. Nothing happened that night, but by the second night, his sleep got heavier. He didn't even hear their youngest cry. By the fifth, he complained about his foot feeling numb. Said it tingled like ants crawling underneath his skin. She told him it was probably diabetes. You need to check your sugar, she warned. Remember your family full up of it? He nodded, like a man who didn't know he was being mourned in stages. By the third week, he'd stopped eating full plates. Said the food tasted funny, like cardboard, like dust. But yet the tea kept coming. Each cup sweeter than the last, each sip a small rebellion, each swallow a reckoning. It started small. He said it was gas, maybe indigestion. Must be the curry last night, he mumbled, rubbing his stomach and belching into his fist. Marva nodded and handed him mint tea. Not the special kind, just the regular. But things didn't get better. His skin dulled first. That bronze tone he was so proud of got pale, almost yellow in the light. His hands stayed cold. His feet felt like pins. Then came the forgetting. At first it was the little things, where he left his slippers, the name of the neighbor's son, the lock code for his phone. Then bigger things, their youngest child's birthday, that he had promised to fix the leak in the bathroom. One night, as she tucked him in bed, he looked up, dazed, and called her Tish. Marva paused for a second, then smoothed the sheet over his chest and walked out the room as if she hadn't heard a thing. By the second month, he'd stopped going to the barbershop altogether. Not because he couldn't, but because "Me too tired," he said. He stopped playing dominoes down at the corner shop. The men still asked for him though, tapping the tables with their knuckles, saving a spot like he'd walk in any moment with some joke on his lips and a red stripe in his hand. He never did. Instead, he stayed in his chair most days, staring at nothing, sweating when it wasn't hot and shivering when the sun was out high. He said everything tasted like metal. He complained his mouth was always dry no matter how much water he drank. His tongue still stuck to the roof of his mouth like chalk. "Marva, something wrong with me," he muttered one evening, his voice hoarse. "Me feel like me are rotten from the inside." She tilted her head slightly and then handed him his cup. "Drink your tea before it cool." He drank. Clarendon people love to diagnose people without knowing anything. And that they did. They said it must be diabetes, or maybe it's a stroke creeping. One of the older women suggested a spiritual bath, lime, salt, and river water to help lift whatever darkness must be clinging to him. But none of it helped. He stopped eating meat, then rice, then anything solid. And through it all, Marva was right there. Marva made porridge, blended soups, fed him by spoon. Then, when Marva got scared and took him to the doctor 2 times, every visit they ran tests, but still they couldn't say what was wrong. Ever so often he'd cry quietly in the night. "Me don't feel like myself." She'd press a cold rag to his forehead and whisper, "It soon pass, love, it soon pass." Guilt gnawing at her, watching him suffer. By now, the children noticed. Simone the eldest visited more often from Kingston, cooking and taking her father for walks as he withered away. "Mummy, maybe me need to go doctor," she said once. Marva shook her head. "Me bring him to the hospital twice. Doctor can't fix this." She didn't mean it cruelly, but the fact was, Junior had been broken long before the sickness showed. All she did was speed up the consequences. And still, she took care of him, bathed him, rubbed his back when he couldn't breathe right, sang hymns when the night grew too quiet. Until one day, he couldn't walk to the bathroom on his own. Then, he couldn't sit up. Then, he couldn't speak. By the final week, his eyes were glassy. He stared past her, through her. She leaned in close and said sternly, "You're tired now?" His lips barely moved. By Thursday morning, she rose before the sun, lit the stove, making panting porridge so he could have something on his stomach. But he didn't drink it. When she went to check on him, he was gone. Just like that. Dead by Thursday, in the ground by Monday. Too quick, too clean. No time for the grief to even know what to do with itself. No night, no wake, no repast, no long vigil on the zinc sheets with curry goat bubbling, cups of white rum being passed, the air thick with hymns and gossip, no old stories about boyhood foolishness and narrow escapes from death. Just a low mass at St. Luke's, the peeling old Anglican church tucked off Racetrack Road. It was a sad excuse for a sanctuary. Paint flaking, louvers broken, pigeons roosting in the rafters, and a fake stench of damp hymnals and old sorrow. The organ wheezed more than it played. The priest forgot Junior's middle name halfway through the reading, and still the place was full. Not with mourners exactly, but with eyes. Watching, waiting. The people of Maypen turned out, not because they loved him, but because they loved a good story. Especially one where the ending came sudden and strange. The whispers had already been moving through the market, along the hair salons and cook shops, folded into the callaloo at Ducey, and dropped like stone into red plastic bags. The old women from the prayer band shook their heads as they passed Marva near the yarn stall the other day. "He looks strong," one said. "Me see him just last month, laughing, playing domino. How sickness moves so fast?" Another answered, low and knowing, "Fast? Are planned." Now they sat behind her in the church pews, still whispering, watching Marva sit there in full white lace, upright and still, her hands folded in her lap like she was waiting for communion instead of the final amen. She didn't cry, not once. Not when they rolled the closed casket with its cheap glossy finish, not when the priest fumbled his prayer, not even when her only son went up to give the eulogy and stumbled through the memories he clearly had to scrape together like crumbs. One of Junior's sisters sang an off-key hymn, voice cracking halfway through the chorus. Still, Marva didn't move. But then, halfway through the second reading, a sound cut through the stillness like a machete through dry bush. A loud, broken bawl from the back of the church. It came from a woman, young, round with child, face twisted in anguish. Tish. She collapsed into the pew behind her, the kind of wailing that shook from bone, not breath, the belly before her rising and falling like waves in storm water. A belly too full to be denied. And for the first time that morning, every head turned. Marva's eyes found her without effort. She didn't blink. The silence that followed was more damning than any word. Everyone saw. Everyone knew. A belly full of life, mourning a man already dead. And not her husband, just another woman's. The shame, thick like smoke, settled over the congregation. Even the priest paused, unsure whether to pray or pivot. One of the ladies leaned forward, whispering behind a glove. So that's why she didn't want to wait on the rest of the family. Marva turned her head, slow and deliberate. Her voice carried across the pew. Him gone already. Nothing for wait pan. Nothing else needed to be said. After the funeral, the house was a tomb. No songs, no scent of cooking fried dumpling, just the stillness of a place that had seen too much grief, too fast. The younger children had already gone back to their routines. School, work, normalcy. But Simone, the eldest, she was still there. Packing slow, her suitcase open, half full, half forgotten. She had grown quiet too. Not out of mourning, but waiting. Waiting for her mother to speak. One evening, while helping clean under the sink, she found it. Tucked behind a bottle of bleach, a small worn pouch tied with string. The scent hit her sharp, bitter, dry, like old bush and iron. She brought it outside with careful steps. Marva was sitting on the back step shelling gungo peas into a small inner basin. The guinea tree above her casting long shadows into the fading light. Ma, Simone's voice said cautiously, this yours? Marva didn't even glance up. It was. Not anymore. She turned the pouch over. What is it? What was it for? Still, Marva didn't meet her eyes. Her fingers kept shelling, slow and sure. Simone, you ever love somebody so much you disappear? She said at last. Her voice was quiet, but she didn't need volume to carry. So much that you turn small just to make space for them to shine. Simone sat confused. Mommy, I don't understand. Marva stopped shelling. She wiped her hand on the hem of her skirt. Then she stood. Her knees cracked and her body moved like every part of her remembered something painful. Her eyes were rim red, not from crying at the funeral, but from years of swallowing tears that never had room to fall. Simone, she said, her voice barely holding it together. Me never start out wicked, you know. She looked around towards the Ackee Tree, her lips trembling. Me used to love that man deep. The kind of love that you boil soup with, the kind of love that you lose sleep and pride and sense over. But loving him, that was like trying to fill a barrel with holes. Tears slid down her face. Silent, stubborn. Me beg God, me beg myself, me wash him clothes with me 2 hands while him out there buying crib and baby clothes to somebody else's child. Her eyes met Simone, fierce and full. You think me never see? You think me never know? The perfume on him shot, the name he call in him sleep, the belly him help build up in Spanish town. Simone's grip tightened on the pouch. Her jaw clenched. But he was still our father. And me, I was still his wife. But that never stopped him from shame me all over me yard, did it? There was a long silence, the kind that it didn't want to end. Finally, Marva turned her gaze towards the little brown pouch. It was just bush, a tea leaf my granny used to call quiet leaf, for stomach trouble, for restless heart. And one night, me boil it for him, just to quiet my mind, but when me see how calm him look, me give him again and again. Her voice cracked. He just stopped shouting, stop wandering, stop hurting me. Me just been tired of him a hurt me. Me just been tired and me just let it happen. Simone's voice was barely a whisper. So what now? Marva took the pouch from her hands, held it like it was an old photograph or a sin. No, we're done. They walked together to the backyard. The cold rum sat waiting under the ackee tree, blackened from years of Sunday cookouts and unsaid things. Marva dropped the pouch inside. She didn't light it immediately. She stood there first, eyes closed, breathing slowly, like she was praying. She was offering a prayer to spirits that still lived in the soil. Then she struck the match. The pouch caught flame fast, crinkled, collapsed, turned to ash. Marva's knee buckled, and for the first time, she cried. Loud, deep, no shame, no holding back. She cried for the girl she used to be, for the woman she had become, for the man who kept taking, and all the years that she got back nothing in return. Simone caught her, held her close, pressed her mother's shaking frame into her chest and whispered, "You're safe now, mommy. You're safe now." The smoke rose into the dusk, curling clutches of the guinea tree. It smelled sharp, like bush and fire and truth. The lemongrass bush nearby rustled faintly, not from breeze, but from knowing. By morning, someone had scratched a message into the zinc fence with a nail. She finally slept whole night. People passed her yard quiet after that. Not from fear, from respect. Because in Clarendon, everybody knew. Some women complain loud. Some take and take until they can't take no more. Thank you for tuning in to Rum and Regret. For more episodes, like, share, and subscribe.